We keep a track of students who have been referred, and we allocate them to a contact person or a case manager, depending on the level of need. Not every student requires case management, but every student needs somebody to follow their case. We have Benjamin next, and Benjamin has recently been on a 20-day suspension.
Last Tuesday was the first time that he attended with this new arrangement. It was okay in the morning, however, towards the afternoon he had highly oppositional behaviours. I'm going to need to talk to the alternate education providers.
Well, I think that the alternative program there is going to be the key also. So, given time, I think we'll have some success there with Ben.
We've got Cody on the list next. Cody has been on this list for some time, and he has had some anger management issues, been doing some boys emotional awareness training with me, but he has ongoing issues. So how's he going at the moment?
We had a bit of a flare-up yesterday. Second break, he was basically starting to look for a fight with one of the other boys on the list, Dwayne, looking to start a fight, and that escalated quite badly out in the playground.
Well, the issue with Cody yesterday also involved him vomiting, and I was speaking with Dad on the phone this morning, and he's obviously very concerned about that, and he indicated that Cody seems to think that he's overweight. We all know that Cody's a very fit young boy. He's clearly not overweight.
So is that something we can get our health nurse involved in?
Yeah, I've spoken with Marianne this morning also, and she's going to work with Nikki in terms of some further referral there to try and delve into that issue, because it's certainly a new development.
We'll certainly include Marianne on the list there as one of his contact people so she can monitor his health and medical issues. We've had him on the list for some time as a level 2, which means he's severe. However, we're moving into more critical areas, so how about we make him priority 1?
Level 1.
Let's make him
Definitely,
1.
with these recent developments. Yeah.
Definitely. He's a 1 now. Within our set meetings, we indicate priority levels for our referred students, and we have 4 levels. Level 1 is to do with critical issues. So, for example, we will have self-harm, suicidal ideation, or critical legal and health issues. In Level 2, these are the students who definitely need case management. These would be the more severe and entrenched patterns of behaviour to do with emotional issues, social misconduct and high levels of disengagement, relationship type issues. Then we have level 3, persistent ongoing patterns, and those levels of need work quite well within a group targeted intervention approach. So we'll be looking at social skilling, perhaps anger management, some sex education, where it works well at the group level. Then we have level 4, emerging behaviours, or it can be just a maintenance type role. Things have been improving, however we still need to touch base with these students, and they're handled by year level coordinators and the mentors.
When we first implemented the initiative, we had a huge number of notifications to docs, and particularly in the area of self-harm. And one of our initial evaluation tools of the effectiveness was a data collection in terms of reducing the number of notifications, which it worked really well. We went from probably 7 or 8 a day down to initially 7 or 8 a week. And now, 10 years down the track, we're a lot lower. So our initial evaluation of how well the program was doing was surrounding data relating to notifications. Our other measure was number of reports of bullying and harassment in the junior years, where that's what our focus was for Mind Matters.
The Learning Support Team is basically set up to deal with students on a one-to-one basis, because every case is an individual case, so there's not one panacea for all kids. There needs to be a structured way of dealing with students individually, because they're all at different developmental stages. So, for instance, if you have a student in Year 7, their needs would be different from a student in Year 9 or 10. Also, you've got to take into consideration ethnic and cultural backgrounds, so what they're bringing with them into the school, and communicating that to their parents and making sure that whatever program you set up, it really suits their individual needs. Sometimes people think one size fits all, and it never does.
Kids seem to be very willing in the Mind Matters sessions to discuss with teachers, and in classroom situations if something comes up and it triggers a thought, the kids will say to the teachers, "Oh, my friend," or "this has happened to me," and we then let other staff know to be aware, and the whole staff becomes aware, and we just follow that child through to make sure it's not going to become a crisis situation, and it very rarely does.
There's a few very clear indicators, especially if you're a friend and you're worried about, it might be a friend in the class that you think his behaviour is changing. That is one of the first indicators, any change in behaviour. So, for instance, if they start losing interest in things that they loved before, so they might have been a mad keen soccer player and then suddenly stop turning up for training, or dragging themselves around the soccer field and showing disinterest. Even music, if they used to be in a band then suddenly don't want to be in the band anymore. If you're a friend and you're ringing saying, "Do you want to go to the movies?" and go, "No, I really couldn't be bothered." These are indicators. The other indicator is, of course, absence from school. If they start missing a lot of school, sleeping for long times is an indicator, but also the other indicator is not sleeping. So if they're up all night saying, are they on their computer, and you might get a message at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and you don't get it to the next morning, you're thinking, well, why are they up? Of course, as it becomes more serious and they start talking about self-harm, or they start giving away their possessions, you really need to see a teacher quite quickly.
So warning signs are like when a student isolates themselves and they sort of sit alone. Another one is when they're sort of angry all the time and they don't want to talk to you. What we've found is a few ways to break these is go up, talk to them, tell them a joke, cheer them up, sort of distract them from what they're thinking. And then after that, I might go see a teacher about it. I wouldn't give any names, but just say, I found a student who's a bit sad, and I'd see if they could help me with it.
Students should be able to come to school and feel safe and happy. And if we get those two things in place, then clearly we should be able to have students learning well. So in order to fulfil that and have students feel safe and happy at this school, the notion of a coordinated approach to student services was developed. We brought together all our different student support staff, including our youth health nurse, our chaplain, peer support coordinator, the school-based police officer, youth support coordinator, as well as incorporating the year level coordinators and the important mentoring role that they have. We've done a number of resilience surveys, and we've identified some issues that young people are experiencing. One of those issues has been around safe behaviours, particularly like safe partying and safe sexual behaviour for young people. So we've implemented a number of programs based on that, and to help young people with sexuality and sexual health, and ensuring that they are being safe in their behaviours. Obviously, young teenagers are having a good time, and I don't mind that, that's okay, but we want them to be back here on Monday morning safe and happy so they can continue with their learning.
We have special units here of children that have disabilities, and they, even though they work as classes stand alone, they do mix in with the general population at recess, lunch, excursions, whole school activities, and for our Mind Matters program that runs on Wednesdays. And those children are accepted into that group, they participate, and it helps our students and it helps them to accept differences in people and how everybody's different, and it's benefit to them with the Mind Matters because they are accepted and they really enjoy doing it.
Some students may experience high mental health needs at some stage in their school life, and these might change over time. The teaching strategies that will support these students will actually support all students. Effective teachers use a range of strategies. Mind Matters believes that it's important to connect the curriculum to students' lives. It's also important to provide variety in learning, using a mix of activity, work with texts, and application to real life. Assessment can be made authentic by students performing their learning in real-life situations. It's also important to create positions of responsibility for students and engage them in teaching and assessing each other. Mind Matters advocates that teachers model and support positive language in classrooms so that students feel respected, acknowledged and valued. It's also important to provide opportunities for students with different talents, cultural backgrounds and interests to contribute and be acknowledged and celebrated.
With our high support needs, it's trying to make it a level playing field. So therefore you're trying to create opportunities for them to succeed just as well as the rest of the cohort of the school. So it's making sure that whatever their needs are, those needs are met. And it might be, if it's mental health, then you're using agencies such as Headspace and you're creating referral pathways for them.
The culture of the students and of the school is to be tolerant and to help people that have needs or more needs than others. So the students that do have the needs learn to be more resilient and develop skills that's more socially acceptable for when they do leave school and they get jobs and they're out in the workforce. And the other students learn to be tolerant of and to assist people that have needs. So through the Mind Matters, we develop the skills and the resilience so that people are more socially acceptable and can cope with the wider world rather than just being in school in a closed environment.
Less and less schools are becoming an isolated body and need to work more and more with their wider community. The community isn't just the community area that they support, the local suburbs and areas and councils. It's also bodies of expertise that exist outside the school walls which can support teaching and learning within the school walls. More and more we find, certainly over the last decade, that outside community organisations do want to work with schools. Ultimately they see a benefit for themselves, but certainly they see a benefit for the children within the four walls of the school environment.
We're in a fairly remote area, I guess, from the centre of the CBD here, so it's important that the services do come in an outreach capacity. And I guess that was my main role, was to try and outsource and see if I could get those services to come in. To date, that's been very successful. This year was intended as a pilot. We see this as just really the beginning and we'll build on this. You do have to realise that your core business is teaching and learning, and sometimes we have to pull back and say, make sure that that's what we're here for. But we see all these services as just supporting that ultimate goal.